So as a working mom, holistic nutritionist and neurospicy person, what do I do when I am completely exhausted? Here are some energy tips. Some of the things that you will have never thought about before are things that are going to help you when you feel tired all the time or exhausted and you're not quite sure what to do or what to focus on. I've been there. This is what I do. This is what's going to help. So what can you do when you're just tired, like bone tired, and you feel drained, maybe you feel a bit like wired, tired? I want to share with you in this video some of the things that, like, even in the last 2 weeks, I've noticed, I'm feeling a bit tired. And I also want to share some things. I've worked over the last 10 years, I've worked with a lot of people with chronic fatigue, long COVID, ME, fibromyalgia. Those are all different things, but they're all sort of roughly in the same area, but look really different and can really have different severity levels depending on the person. I've worked with people with chronic fatigue that are more like bedridden, unable to work, and then people that, can maybe work part-time but can't manage full-time. So anyway, I want to talk a little bit about energy, because energy is one of the things, now that I've sorted out my hormones and my gut health and joint problems and those immediate things that were an issue, I'm all about energy now, because life is so much better when your energy is steady and smooth and feeling good. So I have the wonderful problem of it's too bright. You can tell it's getting to autumn. The sun is getting lower. It's nice. One thing though to note about energy, and this has been something I've had to learn as I've grown up essentially, is that energy isn't limitless. It is a finite resource that the body makes, and in order for the body to make it, so if we really make this super basic, a little bit of biology 101, energy in the body, you could sum it down to the production of something called ATP. ATP is made by something within each cell called mitochondria. So I work a lot with clients' mitochondria, supporting that. And when we're looking at energy, in order to make energy, in order to make ATP, we have to spend ATP to make ATP, and we get a net gain of it. So anyway, so one of the things around energy is, yes, most of the time when I'm working with clients, and I'm going to share with you today just some of the things I'm doing at the moment to help my energy. But if I'm working with a client with severe fatigue, which happens quite a lot, then it's also really doing two things. One, making sure we help them produce more energy. And producing more energy is about a couple of things. It's making sure you support the mitochondria in its function. It's also about removing anything that is hindering mitochondrial function. And it's also about making sure you're not spending energy on areas of inflammation that and kind of problem areas in the body, to really summarize it. But even when you are doing and have done those things, it's really important, because you might not be someone watching that has chronic fatigue. You might just be like, God, I'm just feeling really tired and drained. Your energy is not a limitless resource. We have a set amount, and we really want to optimize that set amount. Don't get me wrong, and I'm going to share with you some of the things that I do and have done to help with that. But we also, I don't want those people in the background. They haven't consented to be in my video. So we want to optimize the energy, but we also need to realize that energy is a resource. It is not limitless. And so we need to steward and cultivate our energy wisely. And that's what I want to chat about a little bit more. You got to get it right at the root. Give it a wiggle. Well, this is going to be a joy to edit, isn't it? Because it's entirely obvious that I have immediately gotten up this morning, gone to the gym, not washed, and it's now 10 o'clock, but hey, real life. So we've now done a little bit of a energy 101 in terms of biology. And there is two different camps. Well, not just two. There's a million different approaches to this. So if you are someone who has more like chronic fatigue, long COVID, these kinds of things, then how I would approach it is going to be really dependent on what is going on. For me, with my chronic fatigue, I had a lot of glandular fever as a child repeatedly. And so there's definitely that viral component to it. So that's why I need to be extra aware of my own energy levels, because there is no way I want to get back to the point of that like chronic fatigue-y type vibe. There was nothing fun about that. So you've really got to understand your root cause. But if you're watching this and you're like, I'm just feeling really drained and tired, and I'm a mum and I'm working and I'm caregiving and I'm whatever it is that's going on in your life, it can be really helpful to take note of your energy. And one of the things I chat to all my clients about, whether they're like an officially diagnosed chronic fatigue person or like a tired, just knackered, working, wifing, mothering, caregiving, giving, depleted woman, is this: really start to think about your energy similar to money. So this goes back to the idea that energy is like a finite resource. So a lot of the time, now I'm going to talk about stuff that actually helps to rebuild, helps to nourish things like your ATP production. We're going to cover that in a minute. But it can be really helpful to just look at and think, okay, if energy was like money, how am I managing my energy? How am I an overspender? Am I one of those people that's like, oh, I have a little bit of energy, then spend. You know, oh, I have £10, I'm going to spend it immediately. It can be really helpful, because this is something I have had to learn. And I've not liked learning this. You know, it's a bit of one of those like unfortunate truths of life that kind of annoys me a little bit. But because I just want to have endless energy. That's the delusion I can live in, of like, I have endless energy, look at me go. And the reality is I do not, and I pay the consequence of it. So when we get energy, so I'm an overspender of energy. I will get a little bit of energy and be like, oh, let's go for a run. Let's climb up a mountain. Let's do something. Let's spend. So what I've had to learn to do is get really strategic with my spending, like you hopefully would do with your money. You don't just get all your money in and then spend everything in the first day. You would kind of portion it out, put some in savings, spend some in different areas, and actually really start to think about your energy expenditure, especially if you're feeling drained and tired in any way, is thinking about, okay, where am I spending my energy? So that's actually the first place to begin. And that's what I have been doing, in that I've been thinking, oh, the last couple of weeks, I've just felt really drained. Okay, so what have I been spending my energy on? Just like a full bit, like with your money, if you're like, oh my goodness, I have no money, what have I spent it on? Same with energy. And so as I listed through, it's been one of my kids' birthdays, I'm finishing my yoga teacher training, there's been all my clients, and I've been onboarding some new clients, which is a brilliant thing to do. All of these things are brilliant. All of these things are things I choose, but they are, just because I like them and I want them and maybe get excited about them and choose them, doesn't mean they're not an expense of my energy. I chose to make 2 homemade birthday cakes for my son. That's a choice I made, but that is a way of spending my energy. And it's like when you start to realize and make that similar analogy to Monday of, oh, I'm spending it. I've spent a lot of my energy over the last couple of weeks. So now what I need to be intentional around is, how am I recouping that? How am I re-energizing and making and supporting my body in making more energy? And this is something I check in with quite often, because I am really unwilling to go back to that heavily fatigued state. So I'm really in tune with my energy cycles. But what happens on a broad scale is, when you end up in a very fatigued, burned out state, is because you haven't done this. You've just kept spending. You've gone into debt, energetic debt, and you just keep spending on exercise, spending on good, wonderful, altruistic things, spending on things that you get resentful about, spending on giving, spending on free labor, holding the mental load, spending, and no recouping. And if that, you know, we all know how that works with money. If you just spend and never recoup, you get in a bit of a financial mess. It is the same with our bodies. So I need to get out of the car. I'm delivering a coffee to my husband, which I'm pretty sure is cold. And as I mentioned, maybe I should wash, potentially. But I'm going to go do those things. And then let's talk about how we can actually like recoup some of this ATP. And these things will apply whether in like a chronically fatigue state or just feel like you're headed, just need to make some tweaks, a bit like I am. Like, it's not that bad, but I'm just wanting to be aware and keep my energy as resilient and stable as possible. I know some of these are going to be really little. Look at that. Do you want to do this one? That one's a bit of a weed. Do you want to do that? Don't throw it. Do you want to put this one? Is there any other carrots anywhere? So I actually lied. I've come into the house and immediately remembered I've got a day with the kids because they're off school, and then I've got yoga teacher training this evening. So I'm making dinner now in the Instant Pot. Love an Instant Pot. I didn't buy one for years because I was like, such a fad. And then my slow cooker broke and I replaced it with an Instant Pot on like a Black Friday sale. Actually very useful, highly recommend. And then I am going to take the kids to a loch because it's sunny outside. It's cold but sunny, so we are going to go outside, and I need to do a lunch for me, so I'm going to do some mackerel pate. Really simple, really easy to eat. Some of the kids like it, some of them don't, so this is mainly for me, and I'm going to do a packed lunch for them. So we've talked about energy spending. So the first thing you want to do is really take a good inventory of where has your energy been going. And this will look differently for all of us, but that's what I've been doing recently. And you could hear from before, like some of the clear ways where my energy has been going. For some people and clients I've worked with, this is a real difficulty because they're like, I'm literally hardly doing anything and I'm still fatigued. And that's often where there's deeper stuff going on, and you really need to understand your root cause for that. There's viral stuff, there's fatigue stuff, there's stuff with the mitochondria, there can be heavy metals, mold, so many things like that. But none of that stuff is going on with me, but it can be worth knowing. If you're like, Kezia, I'm hardly doing anything and I'm exhausted, that's when you really need to start looking at more of your root cause and looking deeper, doing some more detective work, and that's what I do in the root cause session. But what I want to look at now, so if we've done that inventory, we've been looking at what are you spending, the next thing we want to look at is income. So what are some of the things that I've been doing and that I get my clients to do to help with this energy income? How do we cultivate more energy, and what are some of the things that really help? And to put it really simply, you really need to target the root cause of the fatigue. So it might be for some people that they're just simply doing too much stuff. So this was a little bit of what it maybe sounded like for me, where I was like, okay, I need some more chilled evenings. I need to do less life load. I need to say no to something. So in the last couple of weeks, I've had to say no to some really great projects, but I just realistically don't have the capacity to do that, and don't have the energy for it, even though I really want to. So there's that aspect of it. But the next thing is you want to look at is how well are you generating energetic income? Or said a more scientific way, how well is your ATP, how well are you supporting your ATP production? And there's a lot you can do to support that. Just got a new seat for my office. It's one of these love chairs. It's brilliant. It's like so wide. So now I'm just doing a lot of work, more work on a sofa. That's why I love working for myself. So with energy income, it's a little bit about how do we make more deposits of energy in our bank account? How do we create more ATP? And is there anything that's robbing us, that's stealing our energy away? So let's look at cultivating ATP. Real basic foundation is sleep. So I've been really trying to just get a little bit more sleep. I think over the summer I naturally go to bed later, but as the season is changing here in Scotland, is trying to just bring my bed time early, and I'm already an early bird. If you know me in real life, you'll be like, Kezia, how can you go to bed any earlier? But even just half an hour to make sure I'm really getting like more of an 8-hour solid sleep. So sleep is where you do so much recovery, both in quantity and quality of sleep. So really, really important. If you're really struggling with fatigue, but then you're staying up until midnight and getting up at 6, it's kind of obvious why you're tired. You will never get good energy if you don't get good sleep, simply put. So you might not need much detective work for fatigue. You might be like, in the evening I potter, I do stuff, and then I'm actually working at my computer, and then I don't wind down, so I even have a go to sleep, I'm lying awake for hours. That sleep is one of the most optimal, efficient, productive things you can do for your body composition, for your mood, your mental health, but also obviously your energy. So that's quite an obvious one, so I won't go into that in more depth. I'll put in the show notes some podcast episodes that I've done on sleep and sleep hygiene, because there can obviously be a lot of issues there. You might be like, easier said than done, Kezia. I do try to go to bed, but then I'm just like lying in bed for ages, or I'm knackered during the day. But after 8 o'clock, my brain switches on and I'm like, go, 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 and get stuff done. So there's lots of challenges there. I have worked on my sleep an awful lot, thankfully. So for me, it's a relatively easy win on that point. The other thing is, how are we nourishing our mitochondria? So the mitochondria, which is what makes ATP, requires loads of nutrients. Now, I'm just going to give a really broad brushstroke of this, because mitochondrial support is fascinating. It's something I've done an awful lot with myself to overcome my own chronic fatigue, but what I've done with a lot of clients. But there's so much that the body needs to make ATP. Remember, it requires ATP to make ATP, and lots of nutrients are involved. Things like magnesium. If we just take one simple example that everybody's heard of, how well is your, are you depleted in magnesium? Do you need more of it? That can be a really easy thing to bring in from Epsom salt baths. You can get magnesium body butters. My favorite form of magnesium supplementation is magnesium glycinate. A lot of people take the oxide or the citrate. I really like magnesium glycinate or magnesium malate, especially for my fibromyalgia people. That can be really, really helpful. So I have been making sure I've been taking my magnesium supplements really consistently. I've even upped my dose of them, and I love an Epsom salt bath. So that has been one of many ways that you can support that mitochondrial aspect of it. Another way you support your mitochondria is also thinking about, is there anything damaging that? Again, this is really broad brushstrokes here, but things like heavy metal toxicity, mold exposure, poor thyroid function, a suboptimal thyroid or thyroid disease are some of many of the ways that can really impair this energy production. So if you've got like subclinical hypothyroidism going on, or you live in a really moldy house and are really struggling with that, then that is really going to impact the efficiency, the production of this energy. So mitochondrial support. Now, if you're just a wee bit tired, you might just need to go to sleep. But if you're watching this and you're like, I actually sleep well, I eat well, I meditate, and I'm still exhausted, there probably needs to be some deeper mitochondrial work. I can't necessarily figure that out from you watching, from just telepathically knowing you watching YouTube, but that a lot of the time with clients, when fatigue's a real issue, we're looking at the thyroid, we're looking at the mitochondria, we're looking at creating new mitochondria, nourishing the mitochondria, making sure you've got all the nutrients, you've got B vitamins, you've got magnesium, you've got amino acids, all of this sort of stuff to make sure this energy generation is happening, that you are cultivating this income of energy. Otherwise, if you just spending it, you're gonna just feel awful. Another thing I have been doing is saying no to exercise, or kind of reducing exercise and ramping up things like meditation or more regulating exercises like yoga, walking, these kinds of things. Now, this might be more of a personal one, but I can have a tendency to just be very enthusiastic and optimistic and just overdo it a bit on the exercise front because I really enjoy it. So just toning that down a little bit, doing a little bit less. I've been training for a half marathon and I've just kind of stopped all that training for now, just to let my body rest, and I won't carry it on, and I might not even do the race itself unless I really feel like my energy stabilizes. So that's maybe more of a personal one, but really checking in. You know, if you don't do any exercise, you might actually get more energy from doing exercise. If you're not a chronically fatigued, like chronically ill person, I wouldn't recommend that if you are really, really struggling. But if you're just a wee bit fatigued, exercise can give you a bit more energy. But if you're like me and you may be trying to go, you're going to the gym 5 days a week or running 5 days a week, no, pile that down, take a break for a couple of weeks, and then see how your energy feels. I need to go outside, but chugging in the rain. It's the downside of having a garden office. The next thing I think can be really helpful to do is thinking about your food. So food-wise, you want to be eating often, so 3 meals a day with protein, fiber, and healthy fats and healthy carbs with your meals, to just say it really broadly. And also, you want to really look and just take inventory, take stock, reflect on how much caffeine am I having and how much sugar am I having. Often, when we're tired, we rely, my son's Minecraft birthday banners, we rely more on sugar and caffeine to prop us up, which we can feel like helps short term, but long term, it actually is going to rob you of more energy and often create a lot more fatigue. So it's something I've been doing and taking inventory of, have I been having too much caffeine? Have I been trying to prop myself up on caffeine? Have I been having a wee bit too much sugar? Just take inventory, be gentle, be compassionate, be curious, but just see. And that's something that I don't really have a problem with eating loads of sugar, but caffeine is something I can definitely use as a crutch. So I've just been gently pulling back, focusing more on matcha, focusing more on decaf coffee, cacao, and just easing off that kind of caffeine pedal. And then lastly, I do a little bit of specific supplementation to help when I'm feeling really tired. Again, supplements are supplementary. So I was really getting some of the other things down first, but I often do some sort of supplement for mitochondrial support. I've used various things in the past, and I do a lot of things with different clients. Currently at the moment, I've been using CoQ10 for a long time. Well, I use it on and off, and then I'm currently trying PQQ, which is a new, this is when things are getting really quite geeky and nuanced. Again, these things can be really helpful if you're doing some of the other foundational work with your mitochondria. I also make sure I have a really good methylated multivitamin. For me, I've tried lots of things over the years. This isn't for everybody, but having a good dose of B12 and B6 and these kind of things really help with my energy levels. And I really do notice it. I had switched to a slightly lower, the lighting's terrible here. I'd switched to a slightly lower multivitamin because that's just what I had in the house for a couple of weeks, and it did just make a difference. And then also at the moment, I add in a little bit of hormone support. So that's currently looking at some calcium D-glucarate. I've got the broccoli sprouts in the food, a couple of other things, got Angus castus, because sometimes, again, not all the time, but I think some of the fatigue that's been going on is also being exacerbated by these kind of hormone fluctuations and changes as I'm sort of in that very early stage of perimenopause. Also why it's good to eat broccoli. Brassicas are great for your hormones. So, also great for your energy. Eat broccoli.